We're talking Mountain West women's basketball today as we preview Sunday afternoon's national matchup, a first place battle in Las Vegas when Wyoming visits UNLV. And joining me today is Cowgirls head coach Heather Ezell and Lady Rebels head coach Lindy La Rocque. And thank you to both of you for taking the time today. I'm really looking forward to Sunday's matchup.
Thank you for having us, Kelly.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, first, I'm going to start with you, Heather. What are you most looking forward to about Sunday's game?
I think it's just two really good basketball teams competing in the Mountain West Conference and showing our programs off and the conference off on national TV.
Lindy, what are you most excited about for Sunday?
The same. I really enjoy playing Wyoming and Heather. I mean, it sounds silly to say that because we always have such intense battles, but I think first off, I just respect Heather so much as a coach and what she's done with the program. And so, win or lose, it is always great basketball games. And so, I think that's what I'm just looking for, a great competition. And like you said, to be on a national stage for our conference, that really deserves that.
Lindy, you always talk about with your team that pressure is a privilege, a Billie Jean King quote. And, you guys have won 21 straight Mountain West games in a row. What have you seen in the composure of your team so far this year?
Well, each game is a different battle, and in those battles, there's little mini battles. And so, and obviously we have a different team this year than we have had in the past. And so for us, obviously, it's just taking it like really one game at a time, but even more so one possession, one quarter at a time to try to, put our best foot forward and compete at a high level. Obviously we don't kind of count the wins maybe as some of the media does, but we're proud of what we've done with our program, but it's mainly because we try to keep it really narrow and small.
Heather, when I look at your program and your team this year, one thing that really stands out is just the experience that you have back. All five starters are back. You look at the starting lineup and four of them are seniors, and then all upperclassmen, though one junior. How has that experience really benefited you this year as you try and navigate the Mountain West schedule?
Yeah, what's been nice about it is it makes my job just a little bit easier in a sense of practice planning. I don't have to you can kind of shorten practice a little bit because they understand. Probably the biggest piece is they're mentally engaged a lot more than maybe your younger players might be, just because they have been there, done that. And you look across the league, I feel like we're such a upperclassman led league where there's so many returning players that they've been there for 4 or 5 years. And so that experience makes just kind of the whole, conference slate go a little bit in a smoother way, where you're just going, okay, it's the same routine and we know what we're going to get. They know what to expect. And that helps, I think, just the whole process go a little bit smoother.
Heather, what becomes the biggest challenge when you're trying to end UNLV's 21 game conference win streak?
Yeah, I mean, I think Lindy mentioned it too. I wouldn't have known it was 21 games. We're just looking at the next matchup that's on our conference schedule, and it happens to be coming to UNLV and playing, a really good basketball team that right now sits at the top of the conference. And that's the way we look at it. We look that we got to come in, no matter who's next on the schedule. We got to come in and compete. And that's the one thing I feel like the Mountain West Conference has done, is we've grown for 1 through 11, and you can't just kind of relax on any given night. You got to come ready to play. For us, it happens to be UNLV next, and yeah, they sit at the top of the conference, and we have an opportunity to play for, in a sense, first place. But we're not looking for first place right now. We want to look for where we want to be in March.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I was just talking to Carly Drew the other day and was sharing with her that I really thought even the bottom half of the league is a lot better. Just the league as a whole is much improved. When I talked to Coach Bradbury last weekend before their matchup with UNLV, he had said it was the toughest he had ever seen the conference. And some of that, you go to the non-conference scheduling. One thing I really appreciate about both of your programs is the way you scheduled really tough in the non-conference. I look at Wyoming, the Power 4 win over Virginia. You scheduled a Gonzaga, a Drake, Creighton, just a loaded non-conference matchup. Lindy, UNLV, the 23rd hardest hardest schedule in the country this year. That win you had over UCF, and then over DePaul was huge. I think about watching that Baylor game. I mean, you were within two the last minute of that game. So let's start with Lindy, with you. In what ways has playing that tough schedule really benefited you most now that you're in conference play?
Well, you have some hope that you benefit from it, and I think we are, and I'm sure Heather can say the same. Both of our teams have postseason goals, and so the way that we try to achieve those is to really beef up our non-conference schedule, because we know the conference is going to be a gauntlet, but it is a little bit predictable if you know who you're going to play. So how do you continue to challenge your team and not just be tough and ready for conference play, but also the postseason play. So, I think for both of us, it didn't always feel good playing a lot of those hard games. But now I think our team especially can hopefully see, some of those lessons coming to fruition, and the toughness and grit that we built, going and battling some of that adversity.
Heather, what's your take on your non-conference schedule?
My biggest thing was, obviously having a veteran team, being able to play some teams and hopefully pick up a couple wins, here and there. We were able to get a few, but also prepare ourselves for, a slate that we have coming up this week. Go to UNLV, go to Air Force, come back home for CSU. Mm-hmm. Well, that was our non-conference. We had 3 games in a row that, challenged us on the road, then maybe have to come back home or whatever. And so that we can lean on that experience and be able to go, hey, no, we have actually been here, done that. And I think that piece was my biggest, goal with the non-conference and challenge ourselves. But mainly we challenged ourselves on the road. And we knew the only way that we can compete and do the things we want to do this year is we got to win games on the road in the conference season. And so being able to do that in the non-conference, I think, is preparing us for what we're seeing next.
When I look at Sunday's matchup, there's so many impact players on both teams, but I wanted to focus on a pair of 2 seniors in the inside, Alyssa Brown and Allison Ferdig. And Brown coming off a double performance the other night against Air Force, 16 points, 12 rebounds. Allison also coming off a double performance, 21 points, 12 rebounds, 3 blocks. So Heather, I'll start with you. How have you seen these 2 players, or in your case, Allison, just become synonymous with success?
Well, it's probably what everybody thinks around the league. Like, man, are these kids ever going to graduate? And I think we see that, with a lot of teams this year. But the Allison, the way that she's came in and just continued to work and get better, just makes her fun to coach. You don't find yourself too many times having to, actually, get in there and be like, why aren't you doing this? You're just correcting here and there. And that makes, it fun to watch when players have started to really figure it out and correct themselves and not always rely on a coach to do it. And then when you watch a kid like Brown, I think she's a glue kid for UNLV that always seems to do all the dirty work that might not always show up on the stat sheet, but then you turn around and look at the stat sheet and she's filled it. And that's just kind of, I think, for both Allison and Brown, the way that they've impacted their teams.
Lindy, obviously AB, she's one of the unsung heroes of your team. But also when you look at Allison, a nightmare matchup to prepare for. So how would you kind of evaluate both players?
Yeah, well, I think you're looking at 2 seniors here that don't want to lose. And they are given all of their everything that they have in every game, and I see that, and I think you can see that from both players. I know obviously for us and AB, she's kind of counting the last of these. This is the last we're going to play Wyoming at home. This is the last we're going to play at New Mexico, and so she's playing a little bit with some no regrets and why wait? Because there is no next year. And when you watch kind of Allison and what she's done and how she's improved. I mean, I think really this year she's just physically improved her health, and just her physicality. I mean, her fitness. I mean, she's playing nearly the whole game, and it's like for any young woman of her size to play that whole game, that takes some real fortitude. And so, we're going to start our preparation today, and we're going to try to figure out a plan. And it may or may not work. And so then we have to adjust, but that's kind of the fun part against, again, playing against not just a great player, but a great team. She has great teammates. So it's not like, oh, take Allison away and it's all good. But she's such a selfless teammate and a willing passer, so she does her work down there on the block, but she's got a great team around her. So we're going to try to come up with a good game plan.
Finally, I'll ask you about, you both have developmental programs, and in this age where the transfer portal is pretty rampant, why have you both been able to do such a good job retaining players? And Heather, let's start with you.
I think the biggest thing is we try and recruit the right player. We want players that want to be at Wyoming and want to be a part of something and not kind of searching for what's next. And I give all these seniors a lot of credit because they kind of came in. A lot of them got recruited during COVID, so had the opportunity to go, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. I didn't even get to come on a visit, whatever. But at the same time, they fell in love with this place, and they've wanted to not only represent themselves in a matter, but the university in Wyoming. And they have pride, whether they be from the state or not. And that's like the type of players we recruit. And we want that cowgirl toughness and players that want to work and by their senior years, they're doing something special.
Mm-hmm. Lindy?
Yeah, it's a little bit, I would agree with Heather. It's us as a staff doing our work early and making sure that we try to find the right high school players. We're very committed to our high school recruiting. I think that for us has been the most sustainable in developing our culture. And then, sustaining leadership that carries that on from, class to class. So, I credit our staff a lot for doing our work early, being diligent in our early recruiting process to find the right players. And then, once they get here, it's making sure that you kind of stay recruiting them. And again, it's a team sport and everyone wants more, especially kind of in this day and age. And it's trying to help coach the life lessons as much of the basketball lessons of, well, what is the bigger picture here and what are you really valuing? I think all of those things tie together. Obviously winning and having some success is helpful. But I think all of those things play a part. I think we've been able to do that because we've been able to, sustain our players and our culture.
Thank you to you both again for taking the time today. Sunday should be super fun. 2 premier programs facing off on CBS Sports Network at 1 p.m. Pacific time from Las Vegas as UNLV hosts Wyoming.